Good evening. My name is Kaya Henderson, and I am the Chancellor of DC Public Schools. But before I was Chancellor of DC Public Schools, I am mom to Marcus, who is 9, and Robert Jr., who is 18. But before I was mom to them, I was Kaya Henderson, little girl who got a great public education and is living the American dream. Yep, I got a great house, drive my own car, I have a good job, I don't borrow money from my parents every month to pay my bills. I am doing exactly what a good public education is supposed to do for you. In fact, my family started out in the projects of Mount Vernon, New York. My family lived in the projects for 47 years. And we moved solidly out of the lower income rung into the middle class. My mother was the first person in our family to go to college, first person in our family to buy a home, and the first person in our family to propel then the second generation, me, to the kind of middle class existence that I think every parent hopes for their kid in America. I am living the American dream. And so my vision for education is totally fueled by my individual experience, by my experience as Kaya the mom, and then as my experience as Kaya Henderson, Chancellor of DC Public Schools. What's my vision? My vision is that the same public educational system that was able to do it for my mother, that was able to do it for me, and to propel me to one of the best universities in this country, Georgetown University, Hoya Saxa, and that I in fact count on that education system to do it for Marcus and to do it for Robert. And if it can do it for my mom and for me and for Marcus and for Robert, then it can do it for every kid in Washington, D.C. public schools. That's my vision. My vision is not one where my children only know how to read and do math. My vision is one where my children and every child in the city of Washington actually know how to read and do math. They can master science and social studies. They have technological facility. They can speak a foreign language, at least one, right? They can master an instrument. They play a sport. And they might do a few other things that I haven't thought about, because that's what a great public education provides. My vision for education is that we can do that for every single one of our young people, whether they come from a middle class background or whether they come from an impoverished background. My vision for education is we can do that whether they are general education students or whether they come to us with special needs. My vision for education is that we can accomplish that whether they speak English as their first language or English as their second or third language. Somehow or another, I think we've gotten away from the belief that we can do that for every student in Washington, D.C. and in America. In fact, I think education reform, whatever that means, has gone wrong. We don't know what problem we're actually trying to solve. We're trying to increase test scores, or we're trying to outcompete the Finns, or we're trying to make sure to secure our economic future. But Kaya the mom doesn't really care about our economic future. Kaya the mom cares about whether or not Robert and Marcus are going to come home after college and live with me. Okay? Kaya the mom wants to know that when my children leave, they can be and do anything that they want to do. I don't know what my children's test scores are. I don't care. In fact, what do people say when their children don't score well on tests? Oh, my kids just don't test well. Do we think they're not smart? No. So why are we putting all of our emphasis around tests? In fact, we care about way more than tests. We care about whether they can do a number of things. And in fact, we are getting this all wrong because we're concentrating on the wrong things. We are measuring the wrong things. We're measuring things that some people care about, but not what most people care about. When you talk to parents like me want to know that their kids are going to go on to something amazing. Not that their kids have scored X on the CAS or Y on the NAEP. They don't care about international competition. They don't care about spending. They don't care about all of these things. And so, at the end of the day, we have to take a step back and reconnect with the real reason that we do what we do every day. Every single day I get up and I work to change life outcomes for young people in the district. Every single day I work to make sure that whatever their situation is today, they can be in a better situation tomorrow. Every single day I look for 25 different ways to do that. I don't rely on the 5 policy levers that we've allowed to define education reform. It's not just about teacher evaluation. It's not just about charter schools. It's not just about high-stakes testing. It's not just about human capital. Those are all important pieces of the puzzle. But the puzzle is so much more complex than that. And we've allowed ourselves to be reduced to a set of policies that if we apply them as silver bullet initiatives, that they'll fix everything. That's why we're not seeing the successes that we need to see. This work is so complex. This work is so difficult. And in fact, no one thing that we do is going to get us to where we are going to be. We have huge opportunities to completely change the way we teach and what we teach. But right now, we're all busy fussing and fighting about all kinds of random things that don't matter. We don't actually give ourselves the time that it takes to make complex organizational change take root. I've been in my role for 4 years as chancellor, and I am the 3rd longest serving superintendent in DC public schools since the 60s. No wonder we can't get any traction. In fact, because we rely on silver bullets, because we rely on these opportunities where if we just had enough charter schools, if we just got to 50% it goes in DC, things would be great. Well, guess what? We're almost at 50% in DC. And what do we have? The same thing that we have. We have a handful of schools that are excelling in the charter sector, just like we have a handful of schools that are excelling in the traditional sector. We have a handful of schools that are struggling mightily in the charter sector, just like we have a handful of schools that are struggling mightily in the traditional sector. And we got a bunch of folks in the messy middle. That's not the intention. In fact, the problem that we're trying to solve is actually a universal problem. It's the problem of traditional school systems, and it's the problem of charter schools. It's the problem of private schools as well. It's not the governance structure or model. The problem is producing consistent quality at scale. That's everybody's problem. Every sector can produce a handful of great schools that can do it for some kids. Private schools, handful of great schools can do it for some kids. Charter schools, handful of great schools can do it for some kids. Traditional schools, handful of schools that can do it for some kids. But what none of us have figured out is how we consistently produce excellence for all kids. All kids. It is the problem of scale. And so, to continue to delude ourselves into thinking if we just change these policies or we just change this governance structure or if we just have these more autonomies, in fact, it's way more complex than that. At DC Public Schools, we have learned over time that everything that we accomplish, there are 4 or 5 other things that we have to tackle because the work is integrated. With everything that you get good at, there are other things that you have to do to maintain that quality. And so, in fact, we came in thinking, just get great people. If you just get great people, make sure that you have excellent teachers in every single classroom, if you make sure that you have a tremendous principal leading every single school, if you make sure you have great central office person, the rest will take care of itself. And guess what? We right now have the greatest set of people. I've been working in and with DC Public Schools for 17 years, and I would venture to say we have the greatest set of teachers, principals, central office staff in the 17 years that I've been here. It's not enough. It's not just great people. You have to give great people the tools and the resources and the environments that they need to be successful. But even when you do that, you have to make sure that what you're teaching and how you're teaching reaches your students. We have a unique opportunity right now to completely reinvent how we do what we do. The Common Core state standards, blended learning opportunities, competency-based education. We have the opportunity to stop doing education the way we've been doing it for 100 years and completely reinvent both what we're teaching by holding our young people to much higher expectations and how we're teaching it, delivery methods. And we need to maximize that opportunity. We also need to make sure that while we're getting great people and allowing them the tools and the resources to do what they do, and while we're rethinking what and how we teach, that we engage with our communities as we do this. The best answers on these questions are not found in policy rooms. They are not found in central offices. They are not found in federal government buildings. In fact, they are found in the very communities that we serve. But we don't respect our communities enough to see them as partners in problem solving. When we do these things, when we allow ourselves the time, when we respect the complexity of the problem, when we pay attention to the human capital that we have in our organizations, when we rethink our approaches to teaching and learning, when we engage with our stakeholders as real, true partners in problem solving, when we recognize that none of us has all of the right answers, and in fact, that we are all trying to rethink this very difficult issue, then and only then will education reform start to pay off with the results that we're looking for. The results that are not about test scores, but that are about changing life outcomes, because that's what parents are concerned with. And if it could happen for my mother, and if it could happen for Marcus and Robert, it can happen for every kid in Washington, D.C. There's a young lady named Rashima Melson. Rashima Melson graduated as the valedictorian of Anacostia Senior High School. Anacostia is one of our most struggling high schools in the city. And Rashima graduated as the valedictorian after spending the last 2 years living at DC General Homeless Shelter. Rashima, I'm proud to say, went to Georgetown University on a full 4-year academic scholarship. Not because she went to a charter school or because she got a voucher. She went to a regular neighborhood school. Not because it mattered whether the governance model was of DCPS, mayoral control or school board or whatever. Not because she had blended learning or she didn't have blended learning. But in fact, because she had a great set of teachers who were paying attention. She had great teaching happening in her neighborhood school. She had people who guided her along the way. She had opportunities to run track, to volunteer, to do all kinds of enrichment activities in her neighborhood school. And she won a full academic scholarship. Rashima Melson is in her freshman year at Georgetown. She's excelling, and she's also starting a foundation in her spare time to give scholarships to other young people so that they can go to college. That is the point of education reform. When any Rashima Melson anywhere in this country, whether they be homeless or wealthy, or middle class, black or white or Latino or Asian, tall or short or skinny or fat, English language learner, special needs student or whatever, when each of them can accomplish what Rashima Melson can accomplish, then and only then have we realized our vision for education reform. Thank you.